We are back on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk, 1180, 1230 KGEO, and 1410 KERI. Clay, I'm not going to say that we're syndicated, okay? I'm not even going to go there.
Well, we're not.
Okay.
We're just in Kern County.
Well, we're technically syndicated in Kern County.
Well, if you look at YouTube, if someone wanted to go to youtube.com/Clay and Marty Show, they can pick up any of our shows for the last 3 years, about 300 different shows.
Are all the shows on there now?
I think they are. You just have to keep scrolling
scroll
down.
Yeah, everybody from Newt Gingrich to Pat Buchanan to, of course, Cathy and Mark Abernathy several times.
Wayne what's his name?
Allen Root, who's a kick. That was a lot of fun. Before we leave Romney Obama, I have a couple questions for you on that, Cathy.
Hey, question. Did you say the syndicate? Because I thought maybe you guys were with the mob.
Well, Marty is. I'm not.
Okay. The other day, somebody asked me what I do for a living. I told them I sell protection, and they go, "Do you work for the mafia?"
That's a good description.
We had Ted Fowler on, an old friend of mine who was a GM dealer, and he was a stockholder, and he got wiped out totally. His stock went from was $157 a share down to 27 cents a share. Nobody talks about, when they talk about the quote success of Obama Motors, nobody talks about the fact that the stockholders got wiped out. And then the other day we also had Wayne Allen Root on, and he said, and I agree with him, I made the same comment that he made, that what Romney ought to do is say, look, I'll release all my tax records if you release your college records. So why isn't anybody really hitting Obama, as far as his education background, his records? Nobody's really going after him on GM?
Mostly, Marty, what goes on in this country right now is you have a media that have taken sides so strongly that when you try to go to those areas, they try to humiliate you, that you're bringing up silly things that have all been refuted, but they've never really been refuted. And particularly college, your academic records should be public if you're running for president. Let's see the courses you took.
Sure.
But the minute anyone opens their mouth on that, you're pounded on by the 10 media outlets in this country nationally that are completely behind him. And you saw it. They showed their colors from the first debate when Obama granted a poor job. They were crushed. They were mad at him because they want him to win. Now, had Romney done a really bad job in that first debate, do you think they would have been saying, Romney's got to do this next time. He's got to watch our show. That's what Chris Matthews says. He's got to learn the arguments. He's got to be able to do this. They aren't saying today Romney needs to improve so he can do better. They sure wanted Obama to. So they've laid bare where they're at. So you can't go into those areas. Just like Obama keeps saying, where's the details? Where's the details? The media says, where's the details? Romney has spilled his guts with details about what he wants to do. Where's the details from Obama? What is he going to either do different, which means reverse course on everything he did the last 4 years, or what's he going to keep that he thinks so great that he did the last 4 years? He never says, no one ever questions him, and if you go there, he pours it back. They demanded specifics. Romney said PBS, $500 million to PBS, I'll cut it out.
To Big Bird.
And to Big Bird, but to the whole show. Big Bird makes more money than all the other shows, tree watching shows and things. And that he was going to cut Planned Parenthood. Well, those two things Obama just screams about and the media screams about because there is nothing that these people want cut in government spending except our national defense.
I think the one thing that really bothers me about what Wayne Root was talking about, what Ted Fowler was talking about, was there are so many people that had GM stock. It's Mother, Apple Pie, and GM. So all these people invested in a blue chip stock that was never going to lose money, and all of a sudden these people, Ted, for an example, half of his retirement is totally gone, and he can't recuperate it. And yet I've yet to hear anybody in the media talk about the bath people took that were stockholders, and the fact that they circumvented the law to be able to create government motors, but nobody talks about that.
No, and what they saved, supposedly, did I not just read the battery company that makes the Chevy Volt batteries? They're going under.
Out of business.
So, what have we saved? Did we, again, sticking your nose into what businesses succeed? They didn't go into Ford. Ford's doing fine. They picked and chose, but remember, the union agreements that these corporations agreed to over 40, 50 years eventually bankrupt them. That's ultimately.
Yes.
And so And the president went in there as a union protector. That was his goal. It wasn't about making cars. It was about keeping that union going and using that premise in the campaign. Because there's a lot of other companies in this country that he didn't think needed to be bailed out by the taxpayer. And we're not going to see that money. We're not getting that money back. They cannot pay it back. They won't be.
And the stock is down a third from what it was when the government first bought it.
Well, just think what these companies will be like when the government buys more.
Oh, yeah.
They were upset that Ford didn't take any money, but I wanted to move on to a different subject. Since you're a female, what do you think about the situation with Obama accusing Romney of not supporting females?
You know, that part of the debate last night, it was just, I buried my head. I was in a group of 4 or 5 people. We were still working on campaign work. And I said, I hate to hear this stuff about women like we have some different issue because of the way we're made. My goodness, we all want a good paying job for ourselves or for our spouse. We want our kids to get a decent education. We want to be safe in our neighborhoods and internationally. But they go right to government paying for your birth control pills, especially if you're single. We got to make sure you can keep that lifestyle going with taxpayer money. That's their agenda. Their other agenda is to make sure there's money for abortions, that there is no cost, no retribution ever taken, no fact that maybe somebody's got to think before they do things in their personal life that can cause that kind of a situation. And that kind of a situation is actually a human being, but they want to look at it as we have to protect your right to do things that result in bad results to you, that you think are bad, and we're going to undo them for you at taxpayer expense. And that's to me, I hope women watched that last night and didn't fall for that, because to me, women aren't going to succeed in the business world if we're seen as crying all the time that we're not paid as much. The unemployment right now is the white male. I mean, if you want to look at that's a big problem in this country, and as are the minority males. I mean, the males probably, from what I last saw, and I'll have to check recently, but I mean, 6 months ago, it was the male population that suffered the most from the unemployment. So I cringe. I always cringe when they try to pull us out separate, because my goal is I'm going to work as hard as I can, so I'm judged to being the best I can.
Over 500,000 women lost jobs in the last 4 years. But can you explain the Lilly Ledbetter law?
Not really. Every time I hear that, I'm thinking, when did that become the focal point of economic decision making? Somebody names it this legislation by anecdote. You know, there's some problem, so let's legislate the whole country on it. But no, I'm not savvy as to why we have to keep legislating special laws to protect certain people, and then to open up the world to the lawyers who then can sue the pants off of the employer if he doesn't honor it.
We're our in-studio guest, consultant Cathy Abernathy.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned special laws for special groups. The Supreme Court right now is taking up some legislation on discrimination as far as letting a young lady getting into a college where they let minorities in. And she had better grades and more participated in more programs in high school. And so that's an interesting lawsuit that's in the Supreme Court right now.
Yes, it is.
But the Obama case, yeah.
I mean, Obama keeps going back and saying that Romney is against women, and I just don't see it. He increased the number of women in his staff in Massachusetts. He's just done so much for women.
I don't know whether... I actually think this president, and he'll showcase that, I've heard him say it, I've got these 2 daughters, so I care. Well, you know, when I elected you, I really didn't care what your children's sex was. I expect you to care about the American people. And there's Romney with 5 sons. So what's that supposed to mean? He doesn't like women? I mean, it's absurd, but it's this mental game they play with, I would say, the less interested and less involved voter who flashes by probably the debate the other night, you know, for 60 seconds or 2 minutes, and they want him to hear those little digs. They want him to hear this middle class is being stepped on. They want to hear that women are being stepped on. Oh, poor as you. And that gets back to why Romney said, people that think and have been told they're victims in this country, I can't get their vote. Because they believe, because their president tells them they're a victim, I want to give them a chance to become something more.
Well, one of the things Obama said, he said, why you should vote for me is he cut taxes, which I'd like to know what he did, where he did that. He said he ended a war, which I'm sorry he put it that way because he's telling our enemy when they should end the war. He says he killed Osama. He had nothing to do with it. They had to drag him off the golf course so he could watch the SEALs. He said he's put insurance regulations on companies with Obamacare. Yeah, he's destroying the insurance community and the healthcare industry, and he planned to reduce the deficit. Well, when does he plan on doing that? As he continues to borrow money and keeps printing additional money. And maybe we should talk about some of these things when we come back.
We'll be back. Yeah, let's take a break right now. We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio News Talk 1180.